what is a freak off. The freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism.
Day 2 of Sean Diddy Combs' high-profile trial has concluded in dramatic fashion. While prosecutors made significant progress with their case presentation,
he had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from sex shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began with candles. It then moved to studio lighting.
They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to do with that video.
We need you to step to the side. Step to the side, please.
You look cold. You smile. Are you guys feeling? How do you feel today?
Step to the side, please. Watch out, watch out. Watch your butt.
Big great. How can you bump it today? Congratulations at NYU check. Give us a little space. Give us a little space. Give us a little space. Golden Nation.
Nice long you smile. Nice. That's
step to the side, please.
I feel like we like great being by his very stuff. Yeah.
Wait.
Keep us a little space. Watch out. Give us a little space, please. Oh, my. Sorry about that. It's fine. Give us a little space.
Here.
Oh, chocolate eating it. Guys,
oh. Boss down down.
Back up. Back up. Hey, man, Sean, man, be good, bro.
Okay. Charlie.
there were still some evidentiary gaps to fill. However, a major development toward the end of the day could potentially change the entire trajectory of this closely watched case.
The prosecution's star witness taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years. A man she says violently abused her for a decade. A man the prosecution said trafficked her. Well, she sat across from him, placed her overcoat behind her, turning her body slightly toward the jury, rubbing her pregnant belly throughout her testimony. Diddy, well, he was more fidgety than he was the day before. He was passing notes. He pushed himself away from the defense table and largely sat like that. They never seemed to make eye contact with one another, not even after she was crying about having loved him once and planning and participating in these freak-off parties because she feared him and she wanted to make him happy, but feeling worthless, feeling disgusting because she didn't want to do it. Now, with each moment, the testimony became more and more graphic. Her delivery, though, it never changed. It was matter of fact, steady, calm. At times, she was even critical of herself, walking us all through how a 10-album record deal came over a 10-year period of abuse, sexual humiliation. And once you hear Cassie's testimony, you'll understand why the courtroom was so tense.
The atmosphere in the courtroom was electric, as testimony revealed disturbing details about one of music's most powerful figures. The tension was palpable from the moment proceedings began. Legal analysts noted you could hear a pin drop when the courtroom doors opened to reveal the prosecution's star witness.
Makes him unique, though.
Sure, but is that what he's doing? Is he running an entertainment and fashion industry, or is he running essentially a criminal organization?
By the way, we have a poll up right now. You can participate in it. Do you think Cassie Ventura was a victim or partner in this? Ready for this? 82%. Well, this doesn't make sense. 82% say yes. I don't know if that's yes to, I think we need clarification. 82% say victim or partner. We'll get a clarification on that.
By the way,
right now.
But that's my answer to that question.
Oh, okay. 82% say victim. 82% say victim. Maybe based on we're reporting on the testimony right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think she is a victim if the allegations are true, but also she is involved in some of the criminal act. I mean, she's getting those prostitutes, right? She's making payments to them, allegedly. She's having them come, so she's involved in some of the alleged criminal activity. And that's an interesting point that wouldn't just apply to her. Other people in his orbit might be some combination of victim and co-conspirator.
But you know what? That video changes everything, because the argument would be, What do you think happens if she says no?
Yeah.
What do you think happens if she says, I'm not in the mood for a freak off tonight. I'm not going to pay the dancer. That's what's going to happen. That video is arguably the most important piece of evidence because it sets the stage when we're talking about coercion or fraud or force. Question from Angelina. How old was Cassie when they first started dating? I think she was 19 years old, so you're talking about a 17-year age difference. That's important. I think that's an important factor if you're talking about power and control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he's older and obviously has much more power anyway.
Sherry Williams asks, what kind of time is Diddy facing if he's found guilty?
All eyes were fixed on the witness stand, with jurors described as laser-focused throughout the day's testimony. The gravity of the allegations created an environment of intense scrutiny, with every word carefully weighed by those in attendance. The prosecution's star witness, Cassie Ventura, took the stand in what many consider the pivotal moment of the trial thus far. The courtroom fell completely silent as a visibly pregnant Ventura entered, walking past a man she hadn't seen in over 6.5 years. A man she alleges violently abused her for a decade.
You seen how Albie Shore, he came out saying that Kim Porter death needs to be looked into?
I think that Al being his ex-wife, he have every right, knowing about the stuff that came out about Diddy and what he was doing. You understand what he has done in the past, and people have overlooked it. By him coming out and saying that he hoped that he could get her case reopened. There was a guy called John the Paperwork Party. They would put in an open petition to get Kim's case reopened. You understand what I'm saying? So I'll be sure doing this is showing that, you know, he still got love for Quincy's mother. He still want to find out the truth because allegedly Kim was fine the day before and the day of her death. And then now she found in the bed dead from pneumonia. That just don't sound right, bro. That don't sound right at all.
So you feel the same way about her death being suspect?
I don't think nobody in America thinks it's nothing suspicious about Kim's death, bro. If you are rich like that, you could, you know, Kim had, I think a net worth of like, what, 12 million a year or something like that? Kim could have called any doctor to come over and look at her. If she was that bad, you know, she could have called an ambulance or something like that. Everything is suspicious about her death, bro. And I don't think an autopsy was done on her. And if it was a half job.
You personally, right? What do you think happened to Kim Porter?
If I say something personal, bro, and my belief, and I put it on to the public, then I might be liable.
This marked their first face-to-face encounter since their relationship ended. During her testimony, Ventura maintained a remarkably composed demeanor, despite the graphic and disturbing nature of her statements. She was matter-of-fact, steady, and calm throughout the questioning.
This alleged criminal enterprise and how, based on the opening statement from yesterday, he didn't just have staff who were helping him commit the crimes, but also covering them up. Just now, an update from court. Prosecutor asked Cassie Ventura, how would he keep tabs on you? To which she apparently responds, he didn't live far apart. We didn't live far apart. He'd send security to come find me or a trusted assistant. Like who? David James, Christina Coram, who we all know has been a central figure in this case. Maybe not the criminal case, but she's come up in lawsuits before. The prosecutor asks her, was your relationship exclusive? Ventura replies, no. If she's naming names like David James or Christina Coram, do they have to testify, you think?
I don't think they have to testify, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I would think this is all planned out, that she's going to indicate some people and then the prosecution is going to bring them in later in the trial to verify, right? One thing you really want to do with a witness like this, the defense is going to say that she's embellishing. They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to do with that video, right? They can't just say she's a liar, but they're going to say she's exaggerating, she's embellishing, they're painting it a certain way because of the case. So you have to bring in these corroborating witnesses and whatever other corroborating evidence you have to verify what it is she's saying. So it would be very useful, for example, if she says, yes, David James came around to check on me on behalf of Mr. Combs, and then David James takes the stand and says, yes, I did that.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
At times, she was even self-critical as she methodically described how what began as a promising music career with a 10-album record deal became entangled with alleged abuse, control, and sexual exploitation. Observers noted that Ventura and Combs never appeared to make eye contact during the proceedings. While she remained composed, Combs was described as more fidgety than the previous day, frequently passing notes and pushing himself away from the defense table. Ventura provided context to her relationship with Combs, testifying that they first began their physical relationship during a trip to Miami.
Interesting to see how they react and respond to the alleged victim, Cassie Ventura, because she is expecting her third child and is clearly pregnant. So how jurors will kind of see that or visually how they take that into consideration, we don't know, but really they're supposed to make sure that they stay fair and impartial and pay attention to the facts, which is something even the judge warned them about before they were official jurors.
She explained that their relationship remained not public for many years because Combs didn't want it to look bad due to his family situation.
The defense acknowledged that the videos of alleged freak-offs will be shown, but that those videos, they said, didn't come from the government's investigation so much as it came directly from Cassie's phone. But they were essentially trying to raise doubt about why did she hold on to these videos, and again making this argument that this case is about love and infidelity and money. But the prosecution is saying, no, you will hear from witnesses that will tell you that they were abused, they were kicked, they were punched, they were coerced to taking drugs and to performing sex acts. So this is only the beginning.
When asked who he was with at the time, Ventura replied, Kim Porter. This revelation established an overlap between Ventura's relationship with Combs and his relationship with Porter, who died unexpectedly in 2018.
Many people have seen that 2016 video of Sean Combs assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. And the defense said, listen, what you witnessed was wrong, it was inhumane, it was horrible, but that was domestic violence, and they said that is not criminal enterprise, that is not racketeering, but both sides sort of making those compelling arguments and opening statements that for the prosecution, that he is guilty, for the defense obviously saying that he's not guilty of these crimes that he's alleged to have committed.
According to testimony, Combs and Porter had dated on and off from 1994 to 2007.
How were these freak-offs orchestrated?
So Cassie kind of walked the jury through what her role was in the freak-offs and how she said that Combs had choreographed them. He was the director in charge. And what she described was that these freak-offs lasted from 36 to 72 hours. The longest one, she said, lasted 4 days. And through that period, she said her role had evolved from initially Combs setting up the first one to then it becoming essentially her job. These freak-offs, she said, were occurring weekly. And what she was responsible for was finding these escorts, using Craigslist, some of these other escort services, helping them travel to certain locations from Miami to Ibiza, to New York, to LA, to Las Vegas. And that she worked with Combs's business travel people in order to move people around, saying that they would project that they were potential employers and getting them to move. But she said that he had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began with candles, it then moved to studio lighting, that he was directing how they moved from each action of each sexual act in these freak-offs, and even the amount of baby oil that they were wearing. She said that he wanted them to be glistening, and so he would often encourage them to put on more baby oil. And then the Part of that testimony, she said, was that she had engaged and used numerous drugs, including ecstasy, GHB, ketamine, cocaine, marijuana, and the prosecution showed text messages where before a freak-off, she is texting Combs asking, which colored pill do I take from your Louis Vuitton med bag? And he directed her which one.
And shared several children together. Ventura and Combs reportedly dated from 2007 to 2018, with age becoming a significant factor in the power dynamic. She was approximately 19 when they began dating, while Combs was about 17 years her senior. In perhaps the most disturbing portion of testimony, Ventura provided extensive details about what she called freak-offs, events she claims were orchestrated by Combs about a year into their relationship.
I can tell you that immediately, the moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she has to say, as well as those jurors. People know that she was that star witness, the key person in all of this. When you think about that civil suit that came out in 2023, that was settled the day after, she really is the person that connects all the dots. When you look at the indictment and you look at some of the charges, she's the one talking about the freak-offs and what was involved and how she had to act. The prosecution is asking her questions to show that she wasn't in control. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced as well.
She's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better.
She described these as voyeuristic encounters where Combs would direct and watch her engage with other people. According to her testimony, these events could last between 36 to 72 hours, with the longest continuing for 4 days. She stated they occurred weekly, and over time, arranging them became her responsibility. Finding escorts through Craigslist and other services, coordinating travel, and making logistical arrangements across multiple locations.
Was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Gosh, it's so difficult to hear all of these details. And since taking the stand, Cassie has been emotional. What made Cassie emotional on the stand?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say, and that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Including Miami, New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and international destinations like Ibiza. Ventura claimed Combs controlled every aspect of these encounters with meticulous attention to detail. He dictated what she would wear, having her purchase outfits from shops for his approval. He managed the lighting, starting with candles and eventually progressing to professional studio lighting. He directed every aspect of the sexual interactions. He even specified the amount of baby oil participants should use.
Is sharing new details about her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. While testifying against her ex in his trafficking trial, the pregnant singer, who is currently expecting her 3rd child with husband Alex Fine, reveals to the jury that there was actually an overlap for when she and the late Kim Porter dated the rap mogul. In court, Ventura says, per NBC News, that she and Combs first started their physical relationship when they went on a trip to Miami. It was when they returned home that they began spending more time together, though the relationship was, quote, not public for many years. Ventura adds that Combs didn't want it to, quote, look bad, but also knew it was because of his children and personal things like his family. When she was asked who he was with at the time, Ventura replies, quote, Kim Porter. Combs and Porter, who unexpectedly died in 2018, reportedly dated on and off from 1994 to 2007. With them becoming parents to son Christian, twin daughters Delilah and Jessie, and Porter's son Quincy, whom she had from a previous relationship. Their romance ended in 2007, with her choosing to pack up all of her belongings and move out of their home while Combs was out of town. Porter has previously said to Essence magazine that she wanted it to be, quote, dramatic, adding, quote, if I pack up everything, twins and all, it means I'm out. Puffy's an action person, not a talk person. Ventura and Combs reportedly dated from 2007 to 2018, with her sharing after their romance that he was frequently violent towards the end of their relationship. Last May, a 2016 video of the rapper assaulting her surfaced. In hotel surveillance video published by CNN, Combs was seen chasing the singer down a hotel hallway before grabbing her, pulling her to the ground, and kicking her multiple times. The footage appeared to match up with an alleged incident detailed in the singer's lawsuit filed against the Grammy winner.
Wanting them to be glistening on camera, she also testified about extensive drug use during these events, including ecstasy, GHB, ketamine, cocaine, and marijuana. The prosecution presented text messages where Ventura asked Combs which colored pill she should take from his Louis Vuitton med bag, with Combs providing specific instructions. When asked if she ever enjoyed these encounters, Ventura became visibly emotional, stating she only participated to please Combs because she loved him, though she felt dirty afterward. She testified that after the first such encounter, she felt uncomfortable and didn't want to continue, but felt unable to refuse.
I don't really want to say what I really believe, brother, because, you know, what I really believe is that they might got into a little spat, a little fight, something went down, and Puff did that play fighting stuff that he always do, and that pillow fighting stuff, and probably smothered her. But I wouldn't say that on the air. I wouldn't let people know that he probably smothered her to death, and because she had a bad cold or she felt some kind of way that she died doing them having that play fight with the pillow fights and everything, and smothered her. But I'm not gonna say nothing like that on the program because I don't wanna get myself in trouble. As far as saying that with him and say, oh, he said this and he said that. Nah, I'm just being facetious. I'm just being sarcastic that if, you know, in those type of realms and those type of things, because I'm never gonna say that he probably smothered her to death. I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they rush to do the coroner come in and say, yo, She had she had pneumonia. She died of pneumonia, but nobody did no autopsy or nothing like that. Get out of here. Have her funeral, put her in a gold casket. It takes, what, 2 months to get those gold caskets? Had it within a week? Or you're a millionaire, I guess you can. You're a multi-millionaire, you can get it that quick. Then had somebody at the funeral home, had a bodyguard at the funeral home watching the dead body for 24 hours up until the funeral.
Wow, I ain't know that. That's my first time hearing about that. But for the people that's not familiar with Diddy and Kim Porter relationship, can you let the people know a little bit about their relationship?
Well, Kim was very spoiled. Kim, Misha, Sarah Chapman, and Tanisha. Not so more Misha, but it was Tanisha, Sarah Chapman, and Kim. They were all good friends. Puff and Misha was together first, over there uptown and everything like that.
Critical to the prosecution's case is establishing that Combs used force, fraud, or coercion, key elements in trafficking charges. Ventura testified that Combs threatened to release private freak-off videos if she didn't comply with his demands. These graphic videos involving her and other people were allegedly used as leverage to scare and control her. The prosecution highlighted this as a potential form of blackmail and coercion. However, legal analysts noted that Ventura didn't explicitly connect specific threats to specific actions. She didn't testify, Diddy said, "Do this, or I'll release the video." This creates a potential vulnerability in the prosecution's case that the defense may exploit. Ventura also described how Combs would monitor her movements, testifying that he'd send security to come find me, or a trusted assistant, like David James or Christina Corum, names that may feature prominently in later testimony. The prosecution referred to the now infamous security footage from 2016, showing an alleged assault at the Intercontinental Hotel. This video, which was released by CNN and has been widely circulated, shows Combs chasing Ventura down a hotel hallway, grabbing her, throwing her to the ground, and kicking her multiple times. Ventura testified about this incident in detail, stating she had tried to leave an encounter early because she had a premiere coming up. According to her testimony, this triggered the violent response captured on camera. She described how after such incidents, she would sometimes have to hide for days until her bruises healed. This evidence served as a stark reminder of the documented violence in their relationship. Even the defense team acknowledged this abuse occurred, though they argue it constitutes domestic violence rather than the trafficking and racketeering charges Combs faces. The defense position is that while the behavior was wrong, inhumane, and horrible, it represents domestic violence, not evidence of a criminal enterprise or racketeering. They are attempting to separate these incidents from the core charges. Combs's family attended court for a second day, showing support despite the disturbing testimony. His twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah, were seen leaving the courthouse looking visibly downcast and distressed, barely speaking to reporters. His mother, Janice, and sons, King and Justin, were also present. Reporters noted that no one in the family was smiling as they exited the courtroom, suggesting the emotional toll the testimony was taking. The twins' departure during particularly graphic testimony became a talking point, with speculation that they found some details too disturbing to hear. Beyond establishing the relationship dynamics between Combs and Ventura, prosecutors appear to be building a case around what they describe as a criminal enterprise. They've suggested that Combs didn't just have staff helping him commit alleged crimes, but also covering them up. By having Ventura name specific individuals like David James and Christina Corum, the prosecution may be setting up additional witness testimony to corroborate her claims. Legal analysts expect these individuals may be called to testify later in the trial. The prosecution is carefully constructing a narrative of control, coercion, and exploitation that extends beyond a single abusive relationship into what they characterize as a pattern of behavior supported by an infrastructure of enablers, the hallmark of a RICO case. The defense strategy appears to focus on several key arguments. They suggest Ventura's testimony may be embellished or exaggerated, though the video evidence makes outright claims of fabrication difficult. They question why Ventura would have retained videos of the alleged freak-offs on her personal devices, implying some level of willing participation. They argue the case is fundamentally about love and infidelity and money, rather than trafficking or racketeering. They acknowledge the domestic violence, but contend it doesn't constitute the more serious charges Combs faces. They may attempt to portray aspects of the relationship as dysfunctional but consensual, suggesting both parties engaged in problematic behavior. For the prosecution to prove their trafficking case, they need to demonstrate force, fraud, or coercion. While the evidence of physical abuse is compelling, establishing the direct connection between specific threats and Ventura's participation in the alleged activities remains crucial. The case is legally complex because it involves elements of both victimization and alleged participation in activities that could be deemed criminal. Legal analysts noted that Ventura was involved in some of the alleged criminal activity by arranging for escorts and making payments, though this involvement occurred within what the prosecution characterizes as a coercive relationship. If convicted on all charges, Combs potentially faces decades in prison, with trafficking charges carrying particularly severe penalties. The RICO, Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, charges suggest prosecutors view Combs's operation as more than just personal misconduct, but as an organized criminal enterprise. Some observers have drawn parallels between the allegations against Combs and previous high-profile cases involving powerful men in the entertainment industry. The combination of alleged abuse, coercion, and exploitation within the context of industry power dynamics echoes themes from the Me Too movement. There have also been concerning connections drawn to the death of Kim Porter, Combs's former partner. Some commentators have raised questions about the circumstances surrounding Porter's death, with her ex Al B. Sure reportedly calling for her case to be reopened. While not directly related to the current charges, these wider discussions highlight the broader context of accountability within the music industry that forms the backdrop to this case. As testimony continues, the jury faces the challenging task of evaluating complex and sometimes contradictory evidence. They must determine whether Ventura's participation in the alleged activities was truly coerced or if elements of consent existed. They must also assess whether Combs's behavior constitutes isolated incidents or the pattern of activity required for racketeering charges. Legal experts note that jurors are instructed to remain fair and impartial and focus on facts rather than emotions, despite the disturbing nature of the testimony and Ventura's current pregnant state. How the jury perceives Ventura's testimony, her credibility, consistency, and the extent to which her claims are corroborated will likely prove decisive in the case outcome. Public response to the trial has been divided, but trending heavily toward believing Ventura. An informal poll cited during coverage showed 82% of respondents viewed Ventura as a victim rather than a willing partner in the alleged activities. The graphic nature of the testimony has generated significant public discussion about power dynamics, abuse, and accountability in the entertainment industry. Social media commentary has largely expressed support for Ventura, with many citing the video evidence of physical abuse as particularly damning. Ventura's testimony is expected to continue for at least another day, possibly two. Prosecutors will likely seek to strengthen the connections between Combs's alleged threats and Ventura's actions to establish the coercion element central to trafficking charges. Defense attorneys will have the opportunity to cross-examine Ventura, where they may attempt to highlight inconsistencies or areas of apparent consent in the relationship. Their challenge will be doing so without appearing to attack a sympathetic witness, particularly given the video evidence of physical abuse. Following Ventura's testimony, additional witnesses may be called to corroborate specific aspects of her account, potentially including staff members she named during her testimony. As this high-stakes trial continues, the jury must ultimately decide if Combs's alleged power, threats, and Ventura's documented fear constitute the serious crimes he's charged with. The prosecution has made significant progress in establishing a pattern of disturbing behavior, but questions remain about whether this behavior meets the specific legal thresholds for trafficking and racketeering. Day 2 has provided explosive testimony that will shape the remainder of the proceedings. With Ventura's testimony continuing and additional witnesses yet to come, this case continues to unfold as one of the most closely watched trials in recent entertainment industry history.